What's up, guys? This is Pedro from My Stuttering Life, where you will hear the good, the bad, the very ugly. We're gonna laugh, we're gonna cry, but through it all, just know that you are not alone. So, let's get started. Welcome, Ryan Gielen.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thank you, sir. This is a huge honor. You have no idea. So I have some questions that I'm dying to know the answers to. So let's get started. So what drew you to this project?
Well, I'm not a person who stutters. I spent 35 years believing that I had never met anyone who stuttered. And my producer, Michael Alden, took me to see the Say Gala back in 2014. He had seen a couple small films that I had made and liked them and said, hey, come to the gala. There may be a film in there. We'll talk about it after. And I'll never forget, it's 500 people just dressed to the nines, just beautifully dressed in this beautiful auditorium in New York City. The lights go down. There's a single spotlight on stage, and this little 8-year-old boy walks out into the spotlight. And he's in his little gray suit, little blue tie. He's got his hair like cut and gelled and holding a little piece of paper. And he goes to center stage, and he says into the microphone, "Thank you for coming to the 2014 Say Gala." But it takes him 15, 20 seconds to say it. And when he's done, he stops, he looks out, and there's silence. And I realize he's waiting to hear laughter. He's waiting to hear nervous tittering around the auditorium. He's waiting to hear people make fun of him. Instead, after 3 or 4 seconds of silence, there's a standing ovation. And in that moment, you could see his entire being changed. He grew a foot in that moment. He floated off stage. And it occurred to me, over time, over reflecting on this, what had happened was that he realized in that moment that everything that Say had been telling him was true. Say had been telling him, if you never become 1% more fluent, you are loved. You are worthy of love and friendship and all the joy that childhood is supposed to bring with it. If you never become 1% more fluent. And you can hear that and you can want it to be true. But I think often until you experience something that really makes you believe that, it might be hard to take that in when the rest of the world is telling you something different. But he felt it. He felt the standing ovation wash over him. He felt the quiet, respectful listening. He realized in that moment that he was worthy of love and friendship and of everything that an 8-year-old is worthy of. All the joys of life, enjoying going to school, expecting to be listened to. And so it was kind of a thunderclap moment for me where not only did I realize that his journey must be so extraordinarily difficult, and through the rest of the night, that message was reinforced with young people telling their stories of being bullied, of being abused, of being ostracized, of feeling like they're the only person in the world who stutters. Not only did they move me, but when I went home, I looked around, I did a lot of research, and there was nothing telling their story. And I mean nothing. The inner lives, the deep, deep, profound inner lives of young people who stutter was not on screen. It was not in books. And I just felt like if nobody steps up and fixes this, a lot more lives are going to be needlessly negatively affected. A lot of kids who shouldn't be mistreated, will continue to be. And that was 7 years ago. And in the 7 years that since, from the time I wanted to start this to now, there hasn't really been anything that has come out in a big commercial way that has told this story. And to me, it just speaks to the need for stories like this. I think it takes a film like this and other people sharing their stories and pushing stuff like this out into the world for the rest of the world to start to take notice and tell more of these stories.
See, and that is, I mean, how can you not be moved. I mean, how can you? I mean, it's so powerful. And during our email exchanges, um, I had asked you, are you a PWS, a a person who stutters, and you said no, I am an ally. And Ryan, let me tell you, I've never heard that before. You are the first person that has that I've heard to come out that you are an ally. And I can't tell you how profound that is with our community to to just hear that. It's like, wait, I matter. I i am important, and to uh, people are put in your path for a reason. And by you being in my path as you utter those words, it's there's an impact there. I mean, there is a huge impact there. And knowing that one of every 20 children stutter, and that there are over 70 million of us in the world, you know and you know all that we want is we want for someone to listen. And that, I mean, it takes a while, for that to happen for many of us. But to hear you tell me that you are an ally, I mean, that just completely, I mean, changed my world. So I just want to thank you, thank you, thank you.
That's really lovely to hear. Yeah, I mean, it's my pleasure. I think it would have been easier, of course, to like leave the gala that night and look away and say it's a big undertaking to try to make a documentary. You got to find money, you got to find time, you got to find a crew, you got to stay with it through all the edits and more footage and festivals and but I when I was 8 years old, when I was that boy's age, I was bullied for being fat. And I don't use that word. It's not politically correct. It's not appropriate. But I use it very specifically when I talk about this movie, because that was the word that was used to make me feel less than and to make me feel unworthy of love and of friendship. And I remember, I'll never forget. I had a really bad day once, being made fun of and really feeling terrible. And I went to a guidance counselor at the school, and I told her what was going on. She said, "Have you tried eating more fruits and vegetables?" And what that told me as a kid is that the bullies are right. You deserve how you are being treated. And that stays with you. That stays with you for a long time. And so I think it's taken me a long time to really recognize this, but when I started making the film, it wasn't just for the 8-year-old boy that I saw on stage, it was for 8-year-old me. And it was for every kid, that feels like just because they're a little different in some way, they are unworthy. And I really do hope, I use that term ally very purposefully, because making the film, I feel like when I have felt tired, or when money has been short, or when time has been short, or when it took forever to find a distributor, if I wasn't in this for the fight, if I wasn't in this to fight on behalf of kids who are being bullied and made to feel less than, it would have been really easy to just pack it up and say, you know what, the film just isn't going to really go that far. That's fine. I'll just put it on YouTube and hope somebody sees it, But I am an ally and I am a fighter, and I'm on a mission to make sure, to your point, people outside of the stuttering community see this film and recognize their duty to become better listeners, to become more empathetic.
See, and that is great. I mean, because I can't tell you how many times, growing up, talking to a person and having a block. And when I block, my eyes close, my arms go all over the place. And after I pushed through, and it took a while, Ryan. It took me a little longer. When I would reopen my eyes, the other person was gone. And I can't tell you how many times. I mean, if I had a quarter, I would have a Range Rover. But but one of the greatest lessons that that I have learned is stuttering is a great personality test, because it lets me know who is worthy of my time. Because I know a lot of people that when I'm speaking to them, and I have some prolongations, I have some blocks, some repetitions, and if they're looking at their watch, or if they're looking up, if they're looking down, or in some cases they just walk away, that tells me you are not worthy of my time. And that means that I have people around me in my circle who are positive, nurturing, and compassionate, empathetic. So, I mean, for me, it just lets me know who is worthy of my time. So, I mean, it took me a long time to get there, but now that I'm here, woo. All right. So, can you talk about a moment or a scene in the film that you found particularly disturbing or moving, and what was it about that scene that was especially compelling for you?
There's two that come to mind, and they're pretty different. So the first one that comes to mind is, about halfway through the film, we are on our third or fourth night of camp, and they do WSAY, where after pairing up an older camper and a younger camper for the entire day and having them talk to each other and get to know each other, they create a quiet space inside this converted barn, and they invite anyone who would like to volunteer to come up and speak. And that's the only invitation, is you're welcome to come up and speak. And that lasted, about 2.5, 3 hours. And it created this extraordinarily empathetic place for people to be vulnerable, for young people especially to be vulnerable. There's an old Seinfeld joke that people's number one fear is public speaking and number two fear is death. So that if you had to go to a funeral, you'd rather be in the casket than giving the eulogy, right? That's people's number one fear. Now layer into that being a teenager where you're self-conscious about everything, right? Add into that having a stutter or a disfluency of any kind, and you are used to being teased when you speak, and imagining that the entire night is dedicated to just come up and speak to this group of 150 people staring at you, could be deeply, deeply intimidating and scary, and it is. But for 2.5, 3 hours, because those young people knew that was an empathetic audience, and they were going to be shown the respect that they deserve when they go through the world that doesn't show them that respect, they were brave enough in many cases to go up there and just speak. And it was profound. I left afterwards, had to go sit behind the barn and just cry and just sort of like let out what I had been holding in order to hold the camera steady, in order to like direct that night my team filming. Because the courage that was on display and the kindness that was on display was such a beautiful model for what should take place in the world, but doesn't, that I was just very overwhelmed. And that's why that is a pretty long sequence in the final film, because I want the audience to have to sit like I did and experience the courage and experience the kindness and challenge themselves leaving the film to be like, how can I create that when I engage people with a disfluency? And I'll just mention one other time. The basketball game that's in the film, in a completely different way, was a really, really profound moment for me. It was kind of an aha moment during the filming, because so much of the camp involves talking about feelings, right? It involves talking, just being around each other. It's very emotional. And if you don't have true camp activities, the sports, the kickball, the swimming, campfire s'mores where you just are hanging out, a dance party. If you don't have those things, there's no release for these young people in this very intense place. So you filter in the traditional camp stuff, and all of a sudden, what you are saying to these young people and what you are saying through the film to the audience is that young people who stutter are just like everyone else. And it's a shame that needs to be said. It's a shame that needs to be shown. But it's incredibly valuable to remind these young people that even though they are at a camp for kids who stutter, right, a stuttering camp, they are still just kids, and you, camp director, recognize that. You recognize that. And they are worthy of just enjoying themselves. And for me, part of the big reason to keep it in the film and make it clear how exciting it was because I do want other kids who see this to be a little bit jealous of this camp. When you watch that basketball game, you're playing under the lights. You've got all these like excited peers of yours in the stands, like clapping for you and screaming, and you're playing against the counselors. That's a big deal. If I was 13 and thought I was cooler than kids who stutter, and I saw them get to do that, I would think that is so fun. And I think just strategically, I wanted that in the film because I do want kids who don't have disfluency, who are seeing this film, I want to kick into gear their empathy, but also a little bit of jealousy. I think that could be a very good thing. If the average 13-year-old who might be able to turn their brain off to empathy, or turn their brain off to the journey of a young person who stutters, to be like, damn, that looks fun. I think that could be a good thing. So those are two very powerful nights for me.
The W SAY, that, I had to pause it a couple of times and go out, into the front yard. It brought back, everything that I had experienced for 35 years. For over 3 decades, everything that those amazing kids were talking about. It was like Niagara Falls, and so I had to pause it. I went out, I got some fresh air, I came back in, and to watch them just grab that microphone. Because as once fear, creeps in, it's like, no, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. And watching these amazing kids grab that microphone in front of, those 150 kids. You talk about courage. You talk about, just, it was powerful because they have a voice. They have a voice, and, I cried. I cried a lot, Ryan. This documentary, it has touched me in so many ways, and the thing, the emotion that I felt the most in this entire film was love. I I felt it being on the couch and watching it. I mean, I could feel the the love of everybody in there, the counselors, the campers. When the parents came, I mean, ooh, I mean, it was, oh, okay. It was just powerful, Ryan. It was amazing.
I really
Okay.
appreciate that. Thank you. And you know, if, I just want to mention, you mentioned the parents showing up at camp. I get a question a lot about Mark and Melanie, the
Right.
parent who, Mark is the parent who did not like camp. He did not have a he did not believe his daughter had a good experience there. Melanie didn't have a good experience there as the daughter. I get a lot of questions about like why they're in the film, or you know what they're, I guess sort of what I was trying to say by keeping them in. And you mentioned, you know, you used the word love a couple times, and just to call that back for a second, my biggest reason for keeping Mark and Melanie in the film is because I wanted to show parents that even when their desires or their actions come from a place of love, they can still get it wrong. You know, Mark is not a bad father. Mark is a fantastic father who would run through a brick wall for his kids. He would give them his limbs. He would do anything. But I believe that his what he does because he loves Melanie so much is misguided. You know, I think even parents who deeply love their kids, if the focus is solely fluency, I believe that can create real problems and real challenges for kids who will come to believe that if they don't become more fluent, they are failing somehow. And I think that's really dangerous. So that's one of the reasons, you know, Mark isn't in there because he's a villain. Mark is in there because he's trying to be a hero,
Right.
you know, and love is the word that I keep coming back to. I'm glad that, you know, resonated with you. The word, you know.
Mhm. See, and my dad, in our culture, the Latino culture, the men have the machismo. You know, they handle everything. They do everything. But because I had a stutter, I was set aside. Um, be, because I couldn't do the things that my older brothers could do because of my stutter, because of the things that I could not do that my dad he wanted me to do. It was never talked about ever at home. It the issue of my stutter d- did not come up. And you know, growing up, I mean, it's like, so am I broken? Um, uh, you know, because I can't talk, then I can't do all these other things that my two older brothers, you know, are doing and having a great time. And you know, I love my dad. I love my dad with all my, my heart, but he he, he couldn't f- fix me. He was unable to fix me. And so he focused on my two older brothers. And I was, you know, I go to school, bullied, picked on, beat up, you know. I come home, I go straight to my room, I lock the door, I turn off the light, and I just pray that tomorrow is a better day. Because, you know, no one wants to hang around the kid who can't talk. So I would eat lunch in the janitor's closet. You know, I would eat lunch behind the school, and to to do this every day for 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, all the way up until your last year of high school, it gets pretty dark. It gets pretty dark, and one of the most compelling things was one of the counselors was talking about that many of the kids were in a dark place, and they just wanted for it to end. And for me, it takes me back when I was in high school. I mean, just didn't really have anybody. And, one night I said, I'm done. I'm done. I can't no more. I can't. And so I grabbed my dad's gun, and it was midnight. And so I walked down this long road, and there was an overpass. And so I was going to go under it, climb up the steep arch, and I was just done, Ryan. I was done, and making that walk in the quiet of the night, with the gun in my right hand, and thinking it's almost over. No more pain, no more crying, no more anything. And so I go under the overpass, and there's a homeless man. And we never, ever had any homeless people in our area, because it was oil companies, and whatnot, huge homes and whatnot. And we never had any homeless people, driving down that road like twice a day or 3 times a day. There were never any homeless people. But that one night, there was a homeless man under the overpass, and he approached me and asked, what was I doing? And so I told him, I said, I'm tired of hurting. I'm just, I'm tired of it all. So this is my out. This is my out. And he said, no. He said, you have a purpose here. You are here for a reason. And this man didn't know me. I was hearing this from another human being that I hadn't heard utter any of those words for the past 12 years. Haven't heard anybody tell me those words, that I am here for a reason, that I matter, that I have a purpose, and that this isn't the way for me to go. And to just hear him, I kid you not, Ryan, the darkness, it went away. It went away. And so I turned back around. I quietly tried to put the gun away. Woke up my dad, got in trouble. But from that day onward, I knew that I was here for a reason. I didn't know what, but I told myself that I just have to keep on going. And in the film, to hear those amazing kids in pain. I mean, I completely, I had to pause. I went outside, got some fresh air, came back in, and I mean, from that point on, I mean, I felt love. I felt love, and that it healed me. It healed me to watch those kids on stage, to hear them, and to hear the whole group, you know, snapping their fingers, clapping. I mean, it was a beautiful thing to watch. So I just had to share that with you, because I mean, this documentary was it's just very powerful.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that story too. I'm blown away.
Okay. Okay, I'm good. I'm good. All right. So, did anything in the film surprise you? What did you learn from this film that you wish everyone knew?
Can we actually go back for just a second to your story? And I'm
Hmm.
wondering, do you remember falling asleep that night, or do you remember the next day? Do you remember what that felt like?
Um, I do not remember falling asleep because I was exhausted. I, you know, st- um, people who stutter, from the time that we wake up until the time that we go to bed, all of our organs are tense. Our jaw, our throat, our chest. I mean, everything is tense because our goal, my goal, was survival. In school, that's all I wanted, was to just survive. So I was in s- 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 survival mode for 12 years. And you you learn how to be resourceful and creative, because as you know, in school on day 1 you have to give an introduction, and I did it one time, Ryan, and it was horrible. It was traumatic. It was horrible. You know, kids were laughing, calling me Porky Pig, and that's when I told myself, this will never happen again. And so from that day on, I missed the first 2 days of school, the entire school year, even in undergrad, Ryan, and graduate school. I would always miss the first 2 days of school because I did not want to do that traumatic thing again and again and again. Because I mean, we have a hard life, Ryan. I mean, it doesn't go day by day, not even hour by hour. It goes minute by minute and second by second. So when I wake up until I go to bed, my entire body is drained. I have no more energy. I cannot talk to anybody else. I cannot do anything else because the whole day, my whole body, it was in survival mode. But I do remember the day after, because the darkness is all gone, Ryan. It's all gone. There's nothing but light. I don't know where it was going to take me, but I know that people are put in your path for a reason. There was a reason why this person was under the overpass at that moment in time. Had he not been there, Ryan, I wouldn't be here. I would not be here, but people are put in your path for a reason. And so the day after, I saw light. I saw light. I still had horrible days, Ryan. I still had bad days, but I knew that I have a purpose, that I just have to keep on keeping on. Be, be, because that one person out of 1,000 or more in the whole 12 years of school, that one person told me that I mattered. And you best believe I'm going to do anything that one person says, because it made me feel, you see me. You see me. And going forward, I mean, I had horrible days, but I knew there was light at the end of the tunnel. So yeah, but that night I don't remember going to sleep. All I knew is I was exhausted. I mean,
Yeah.
I just hit that pillow and I was out.
Yeah. I imagine. Yeah.
Ooh, yeah. I mean, it
I'm
takes
really,
me
I'm
back.
really, I'm really honored that you shared that with me. Really, I know it's certainly, I'm sure, not easy to talk about, but I feel just like with some of the kids in the film, I feel very privileged to have that level of trust from you.
Thank you, sir. So did anything in the film surprise you? What did you learn from this film that you wish everyone knew?
I wish everyone knew how easy it is to be a kind and empathetic listener to people with disfluency. We train the world around people who stutter to be quick and harsh and uncaring and unaware. We train the world to be very unaware of the journey of kids who stutter and of people who stutter, when it would be so easy to do the opposite, to train young people when they are at their most receptive to new ideas and most responsive to parents and teachers and role models, to listen patiently. If we bothered to train young people that disfluency is as normal and as to be expected as fluency, we could change the world overnight for people with disfluency and kids who stutter instantly. And
Mm-hmm.
it would not take much. It would literally just take everybody kind of agreeing, oh, okay, just like we now wear seatbelts, just like we now know vegetables are healthy, we now know that we listen. That's all. If we just all agreed that, oh, wait, disfluency is just as normal as fluency, we're all just going to listen, we can do it like that. There just isn't the will, there isn't the awareness. And I think that's really critical to change. But that's the thing I wish people knew and wish people cared about. That's kind of the mission of the film. That's the mission of conversations like these. It's the mission of me reaching out to you, is to say, like, help me kind of, change the world a little bit if we can.
You are 100% correct. It is all about education. You know, whenever I'm out and about and have a block, on my name, and the other person asks, "Did you forget your name?" It's so easy to jump to anger, but at this point, in my life, it's all about education. I take the time. I breathe. So I have a speech impediment. So I stutter. So th- th- that means I may have blocks. I may have repetitions. I may prolong words, but it's just me with having a stutter. And the other person, oh, I apologize. You know, my uncle had a stutter, or my brother had a stutter. That way, for the next time that person encounters, they are better equipped, better. They have a better understanding. They are more compassionate. They're more empathetic. You know, so I mean, my goal. I mean, with yours is just raising awareness. So everywhere I go, I tell everybody. I mean, you cannot stop me from talking. You can't do it, Ryan. You just can't do it. Because I know that there are other people out there who are hearing this podcast, thinking I thought I was the only one. I thought I had a hard time with job interviews. I thought I was the only one that um I could not ask out a girl on a date. And one of the powerful things that Taro is it Taro or Taro?
Taro.
Okay, yes. Okay, Taro Alexander, he had made a statement that he did not meet another person who stuttered until he was 26 years old. Ryan, I did not meet another person who stuttered until my 20s. My 20s. And I was standing on a sidewalk, and there was this young man also. So we were going to greet each other, and we shook hands, and I knew instantly. I could see it in his eyes, Ryan. He wanted to tell me his name. Heck, I wanted to tell him my name. We stood there shaking hands for quite a while, and I could see his face turning red, and these words just came out. I know. And everything. I mean, just... And then we had our conversation. I thought I was the only one, Ryan, growing up in school in South Texas. I thought I was the only one who had this. Why me? Why am I the only one who can't do what all of the other kids are doing on the playground, in the lunchroom, in the hallway? They're laughing, they're talking, they're having a wonderful time. Why can't I do that? I was always in the janitor's closet. I was out back, behind the school, just all by myself, and to meet another person in my 20s. I mean, that was like, I found another person like me. I can't believe it. There's another one like me out there. And we had the most fantastic conversation. It was just unreal. So to hear Taro talk about that, it took me back to that day, Ryan. It took me back there. I'm standing there. The other guy it was so vivid, and so powerful. So, it's just amazing. This, documentary, it's amazing, Ryan. Whew. Okay.
Well, thank you. I never get tired of hearing that. Thank you.
All right.
I really appreciate it.
So, in watching this documentary, I was taken aback by the role of the SLPs. Okay, Ryan. So, watching this documentary and watching the SLPs, the speech language pathologists, engaging with these courageous kids, that was powerful. They were compassionate. They were empathetic. They were right there, listening, hearing them, taking it all in. When I was in speech therapy, because I had it all through school, and then I had it in college, I had it in the military. So in all of my 12 years of speech therapy, the main goal was fluency. They wanted to fix me. And just a complete opposite of what is in this amazing film, where there was the mental health aspect of just being there, helping you. I hear you. I am empathetic. I am compassionate. I am nurturing. Had I had that, Ryan, when I was in speech therapy, I mean, that would have made a profound impact. Now, I loved all of my speech therapists. I mean, they were wonderful people. And during the late 1970s, the early 80s, it was all about, we just have to fix you. You know, we have to get you talking like everybody else. You know, and that whole process, it was rough, Ryan. It was rough. But what made it even more difficult and stressful is, back in my day, the schools had one PA in every single room. And so, you would have the principal come on, and then the counselors come on. And then here we go with the counselor. Pedro Pena to the counselor's office for speech therapy. I just can't win, Ryan. I just can't win. And
it's the last thing that any kid wants also, by the way, is to have anybody look at them. Like when you're 10, 12, 14, you don't want anyone to look at you. If a teacher calls you out or a parent comes to school, you're just mortified.
And they're all looking at you because that PA halts everything. And then here I go. I'm collecting my things. My head is down. I'm walking out and I'm going to my weekly speech therapy. And it's like, God, holy mac and cheese. Why? Then also going back into the school classrooms, teachers, they made you read out loud, Ryan. They made us read out loud a paragraph. And as you know, when I did my intros in school, I did it one time. That's it. Pedro done. Drop the mic. That's it. I learned my lesson. Well, reading out loud, I learned another lesson. Pedro can't do that. And that paragraph, Ryan, it may have well been a book that I had to read in front of 20 other kids who are just looking at you. They're just looking at you. And you see that first word and you know, oh, that's a C word. Oh, look, the next word is an H word. and so how I cope with it, which a lot of people who stutter have also told me, as I'm talking to you, Ryan, I know all of the other words that are coming down the pike as I'm talking to you. So as I am engaging in our conversation, I know the next 20 words that are, that are on their way. And there are a couple of words that I know I cannot get out. So as I'm still talking to you, Ryan, in my head, I'm taking out those words and I am replacing them with easier words as I'm still talking to you. So as you know, mentally, at the end of the day, there's nothing left. You have zero. Your tank is all the way to empty. And in school, with having to read out loud, I did it one time. And I was called Porky Pig. I mean, laughing, pointing. The teacher didn't do anything. And so the hard part is I couldn't do it. So I had to sit down. And to make things worse, Ryan, the kid behind me had to read my paragraph. Whew, yeah, that. Well, yes. And so I told myself, Ryan, I said, this will never happen again. So for the next time it happened in history class, English, any other class that I had to read out loud, I would raise my hand and go to the restroom. I spent a majority of my school life in a restroom stall. Now, granted, we didn't have mobile phones back then. I don't think we had pagers back then. We had the rotary dial telephones. And let me tell you, if you were dialing a 4, you would hear back. I said, oh, great. The phone is now mocking me. It's like, you just can't win, Ryan. Just can't win. So I spent the majority of my K through 12, my undergrad, and my graduate school in the restroom, in a stall, because I knew that I can't do this. I tried it, and it was traumatic, so I'm in survival mode all over again. So we have to go back, okay? And we have to be resourceful. We have to be creative because we have to survive. And I mean, I can't tell you the same restroom stall that I was in. Oh, hello, old friend. I'm back again.
You talk about SLPs. That's one of the things. So I've done 226 screenings over the last 2 years.
Wow.
They were at film festivals and in person, and then for the last year, all virtual. Hold on, plug my computer in, sorry. And about half have been for SLP groups. Stop making noise here. Get this in. Groups affiliated with ASHA or a school district's entire SLP team, or a particular school's SLP team, or graduate programs, NISLA affiliated programs. And the conversations have been extraordinary. The audiences have been incredibly receptive. SLPs have wanted to learn from the film and ask a lot of great questions. And one of the things that I always try to express to them is I don't have a great vocabulary for speech language pathology or speech therapy. The film obviously does not focus on it. But they do ask in almost every case, sort of the last question is, well, what advice do you have? Is there any sort of thing you'd like to leave us with? And it's interesting that you mentioned unprompted, like for me, that you would have these moments of, from the moment you walk out the door, your body is tensed and your armor is up, and then you get back to your room, turn off the lights, and just pray and try to just let go of the day. That is the vision. That's almost the exact visual that I always try to leave with SLP groups, because I say to them, I don't have a great vocabulary for what you do, but I can tell you a visual that has stayed with me ever since I started making this film is that for young people who stutter, in many, if not most cases, the minute they walk, if they have a decent home life, the minute they walk out the front door, they put their armor up. The armor is up in case they bump into the mailman or a neighbor. Then when they get on the school bus, they go through their school day. They go to their after school activities. They come home. And as soon as they walk in the door, the armor can come down. They go to bed and they start all over again the next day. And if they have a difficult home life, the armor goes up the minute they wake up. And it doesn't come down until they get back in their room and can close the door, turn the lights off, and start winding down for the night. And I ask the SLPs, I say, I can't give you specific advice. I don't know about therapies. I don't know about your techniques and strategies. But the challenge I would lay out for you is, how can your practice, the 45 minutes or the hour you get with a kid every week or every month, how can that be the one place during the day where they can let their armor down? And if you challenge yourself to think like that, you will have the courage to push back against teachers or parents who are insisting that you return this kid more fluent than when the kid left the class. Because a lot of SLPs, I didn't know this, I learned this through making the film and doing these Q&As, feel trapped. A lot of the SLPs who would prefer to focus less on fluency feel trapped because teachers complain if they don't see progress, and parents are upset if they don't see progress, because we just aren't doing enough to educate teachers and parents that progress should be internal, about how much that kid loves and respects themselves and how they speak, as opposed to external, how fluent they're becoming. So it was very interesting to me that you had that sort of same experience and painted that same picture. That's the same picture I try to give to SLPs every time I talk to them.
One of the things that I try to teach people is that there's a lot of pressure. There is a ton of pressure that is put on us on a daily basis, on an hourly basis, on a minute by minute basis. And as you know, pressure does two things. First thing, it can burst pipes. Next thing, it can create diamonds. It can create diamonds. And so for the first 35 years of my life, pipes bursting all over the place, because I couldn't do it. I can't talk on the phone. I can't order a pizza. I can't do this. Pipes bursting all over the place. After I turned 40, the day of Ryan, the day I turned the big 40, I said, that's it. That's it. I'm done. I'm exhausted. I'm completely drained. I shouldn't have to live like this. I shouldn't have to. I'm in the light. Literally, I'm in the light. And so that's it. That's it. I love Pedro. I never told myself that, Ryan. Never told myself that. From the time that I was little, the whole time of stuttering, I was told that I was stupid. I was told that I was slow. I was told that I have a form of mental retardation, that I should just collect disability and get my paycheck every month. So if you hear that for 35 years, Ryan, I mean, enough. It takes a toll on the body. Look at this gray hair. I mean, I'm balding, but it takes a toll on the body. And at 40 years old, I said, I'm done. I'm done. Pedro is awesome. I love Pedro. If you laugh at me, that's on you. You have your own demons that you have to work out, because Pedro is awesome. What I have learned is hurt people hurt people. So if I have a block, if you laugh at me, that's on you. Pedro is awesome. Pedro can do any thing in this world, and watch me.
It's just one of the most difficult things when you're dealing with young people who are really struggling, is it's so hard to impress upon them how broken everyone is. Mm-hmm. They just assume it correctly, and I totally understand why. I did this too as a kid. If you're being made fun of and the teacher isn't stepping up to support you, or the world is reinforcing the bully instead of you, it's so hard, and if not impossible, to see, oh wait, everybody is a mess, you know? And it's not on the kids to realize that, but as an adult, you just kind of wish you could be like, no, let me pull back the curtain, please. Just let me pull this curtain back. Look, everybody's a mess. Don't listen to any of them. They're all a mess. You're great. You know, like you just wish you could somehow intuit that for them, you know, or to them. But yeah.
I I just wish that I had done it earlier. But everything happens for a reason, and that's when I took 2 years to learn all about Pedro. It took me 2 years. I spent thousands of dollars. I went to workshops. I read awesome books by Tony Robbins, Mel Robbins, all Les Brown. He's my favorite. I mean, to just learn about Pedro. Pedro's awesome. I can do things that I never thought I could do. Ryan, if you have people around you who, like at camp, people around you supportive, nurturing, compassionate. They are your cheerleaders. Just rah, rah, you can do this. And as I'm doing this, a whole new world opens up. Who would have thought a person who stutters would have a podcast? I mean, I would have people telling me people don't want to hear a person who cannot talk on the radio, on a podcast. And I was like, watch me. I'm in 47 countries. Ryan, 47 countries. It's amazing the power of this platform to reach people. And every time I hit that record button, I kid you not, Ryan, it's magic. I'm in here and I'm talking to every person in the world. If you have a stutter, you're awesome. You are truly amazing and courageous. And Taro, I'm at the end of camp, says every one of you are champions. Oh my gosh, I just had goosebumps. Because I tell everybody, you are courageous. We all have that light. We all have a light within us. Go shine that light, because we're diamonds. We're all diamonds, and we shine bright. So, I mean, oh yeah, I could talk for days, Ryan. I'm sorry, I could talk for days.
Well, I love it. I'm really like blown away, and I appreciate, you know, all the positive things that you have to say about the film. Sincerely, it means a tremendous amount, you know.
Thank you, sir. Let's talk about the real world. There was a portion in this film talking about taking up space. Can you talk more, please, regarding that?
Yeah, I mean, one of the like, I think, you know, you use the phrase, people would tell you that nobody wants to hear a podcaster who can't talk, right? Nobody wants to hear that on the radio. And think about like how messed up it is that if you have a disfluency or you stutter, people refer to that as you can't talk. You can talk. It may take you a little longer, but you can talk, right? So the entire framework that we teach people, both actively and passively, for thinking about speaking is broken. Because from day one, we convince people, we train young people to think that if you aren't fluent, you can't talk. Instead of training young people that, oh, look, there's a myriad of ways that people speak. And all of those ways are speaking. And therefore, you need to listen. You need to be empathetic and be a human being toward people who speak in all of these ways. And so when I think of taking space, I think it's a challenge, and it's understandable why it may not happen. But I think people with disfluency, people who stutter, have a right to take up space. to speak and to expect to be heard and to be listened to. And I'm not sure if that's exactly what you're referring to, but that from my point of view is what taking up space is. Sometimes you have to insist on having your space or having people listen.
Right. I mean, that was it. That was it. Be- because you know, many people who stutter who have told me, and then I've done this. Um, I prefer hiding. I I want to be in the back row. I mean, I had the answers, in school, but I never opened up my mouth because I always wanted to hide behind everything. Everyone else had their space. I mean, for me, I never had that space. I was always in the back, in the quiet, not raising my hand, not doing anything. I was just hiding back there. And and to hear this powerful wave of I'm going to take my space. This is my space because I have something to say and what I say has value. So this is Pedro's space right here. And if you don't want to be a part of it, guess what? Have a nice day. Adios, muchacho. Adios, muchacha. Because what Pedro has to say has value. And if you don't want to be in the space, that's just for Pedro, because I'm taking my space. Then that tells me that you are not worthy of my time. You are not worthy of being in my space. So, so I found that very powerful in this documentary. So thank you for getting it out there because we need to take space. I'm tired of hiding. I'm tired of, just of not living. Life is about living. Life is about moments. Be in the moment. Take up your space. That's your space. You have a voice. Let's get it out there. So thank you for having that in this amazing documentary because I truly, truly appreciated that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure. And I know you agree with this too, but like what I did was bring my camera into a room where young people were already taking up space because they were participating in say, and they were listening to adults who believe the same thing that you're espousing right now, the value of that. So like I the the young people who were taking up that space supercharged me, and keep me going. And part of the reason, when the film was mostly self-funded, and one of the reasons it took 6 years from the time I started filming to get it out to the world is in the filming and the editing, you're constantly looking for more money to go out and do more money to go out and do more. And then 6 months later, you need more to go do more. Same thing with the editing, that's a 3 or 4 year process. And when it would seem like a daunting task, I would always come back to what you're saying, to the young people who were taking up space, who were being courageous, who would benefit if the film actually was able to get out to the world in a meaningful way. And I will say, like, in the end, the best possible scenario happened, and that is that Discovery Channel came on board to pick up the film and to put it out through Discovery, their app Discovery Plus, because it's not just some platform. Discovery is a brand where people who are intellectually curious about science and medicine and health and wellness and that people go to learn things there, to be challenged, to devour, ideas that they don't have in them yet. And so it worked out in the end, but it what Discovery responded to was the same thing that I responded to, which is young people taking up space, taking that first step to sort of reclaim their time.
One of um, the big issues that I hear now is, now that we're in this pandemic, in this new normal where everything is done remotely, webcam, you have Zoom, you have Teams, you have Skype, and so I was in a room in Clubhouse. Okay. I never thought that I could do Clubhouse because it's audio only, Ryan. Audio only. There's no typing, no video. It's audio only. So I had to prepare myself. It took me 2 weeks. I had to prepare myself to actually join it and hop into a room. They were talking about how are you coping. So I hit that button. I raise my hand, and first of all, I disclose. I tell everybody. I have a stutter. I have a podcast, My Stuttering Life. Da da da. And then I was telling the group, in this new normal, it's pushing us, people who stutter. It's pushing us out of our comfort zones. Pedro just got used to talking to people face to face, and guess what? Bam! Now you have to do it via webcam. Now I have been taken out of what I felt I was doing pretty good in, talking face to face to human beings. And now I have to do everything via webcam. And I mean, I kid you not, Ryan, my heart was hurting. I was like, can I do this? Can I do this? So I was telling this room of 150 people what we are currently going through, and they had no idea. They had zero idea that this was a huge impact on us, because there's no more humans. There's just webcam, laptop, microphone, and that's it. And I had to practice for 2 weeks. I practiced. I called my buddies, hey, let's do a Zoom, a Skype, it's called survival. I have a mortgage. Survival. And so all these amazing children who are in school who have to do this, it's extremely difficult. I had a 9-year-old, Bradley, a 9-year-old, reach out to me to tell me he's having a hard time in school. And so, I replied to him, and his mother had reached out, and she told me he was the happiest that he had ever been because a person responded to him. And so, I gave him some positive affirmations and told him that I'm doing a YouTube video just for him, and he is just elated. But in this new normal, we are being pushed out of our comfort zone into a whole new world. And then to hear these kids talk about, okay, camp is over, I'm going into the real world. And that resonated because here we go all over again. Okay, I have to survive. I have to do this. But the best part is that in the documentary, they have their own support group, to help each other. And so I thought that was wonderful, because in this new normal of webcams and remote learning and everything, these amazing kids need that support.
Yeah, and it kind of speaks to, on the one hand, how simple it is to change sort of the world for a young person, for a very young person who stutters, because if he's spending his life not being responded to, or if, like a lot of kids, 9-year-olds who stutter, if he believes that he's the only person on earth who has this challenge, or at least the only person he might ever meet who has this challenge is himself, to make a tiny dent in that in a meaningful way, it's as simple as putting, if possible, him on a Zoom with other kids who stutter, right? So what I mean is, if, say, for instance, or other organizations, some of the stuttering organizations do a good job of bringing young people who stutter into Zooms and having, national meetups where they used to only, pre-COVID, they would have only like smaller regional ones. It's profound what you can do with just a tiny nudge. And again, not to bring everything back to promoting the film, but like I want the film to be that. I picture on top of kids in general, I picture kids in like rural areas or who live far away from aren't able to participate in big groups or don't have any awareness of how big and vast the world is and how many people they're going to meet who stutter if they really try as an adult or as a young adult. I want the film to be a touchstone for them. I want them to be able to, after a rough day, I need that reminder that I'm okay, that the world is broken around me, not me. I need that reminder that there are other kids who start, and to turn on the film, even if they don't watch it, to have it there, to know they can come back to it. I hope that it does that.
This film does that and so much more. I mean, you did an amazing job. I mean, I just can't keep telling you this, but what's the one thing that you learned from this entire experience?
I learned what empathy actually is. I always thought I was like a nice person or a good person. But in early on watching Taro listen to a young person when they spoke and seeing how completely 100% present he is in any conversation, but of course, especially with a young person who stutters, it was very, very eye-opening, and made me really reflect on how easy it would be and how much I need to be more empathetic and more present and a better listener. And it helped friendships. It helped my relationship with my wife. It helped me be a better father. Just just being around Taro and seeing his level of presence really did alter the course of every relationship in my life, alter the course of my life.
He is a bright light. You are a bright light in our community, because with having y'all in our corner, I mean, it feels amazing. It truly is an amazing feeling to have individuals, just spotlight how amazing these kids are. These just beautiful human beings, and all they want is just for someone to listen. I mean, that's all that we want, and this film does a powerful message in getting that out there. And lastly, the last comments, I loved that it's okay to stutter. It is okay to stutter, because for 35 years I was told that I was broken. I mean, all the way in college, in graduate school, I still felt that way. In the military, during the Persian Gulf War, when I fought in the war, I still had it. I'm broken. Everyone else talks, but I don't talk. If I have to, I will be in survival mode, because I'll get it out. It might take me 8 hours, but I'm going to get it out. So, I mean, I just want to just thank you for making this powerful movie. I am going to share it with everybody. And so I want to thank you, Ryan Gielen, for spending your evening with me on this podcast, because you have impacted my life in such a positive way, in such a positive way you have no idea. And so I promise you, I am going to share this with everyone in the world. But I just wanted to thank you because I believe there's healing in sharing. I truly believe that. And so I want to thank you. I want to tell everybody, go watch this amazing documentary, My Beautiful Stutter. And Ryan, how would my listeners, because I'm in 47 countries around the globe. What if they wanted to reach out to you? How would they do that?
Yeah, I can be reached really easily through the website, mybeautifulstutter.com. If you use the contact form, you can reach me. You can email me directly at ryan@believeltd.com. My production company is Believe Limited or Believe Ltd. You can also follow the film on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter. You can reach me through any of those social media platforms. And it's either me or my assistant Mel. Either she or I will reply to everything, usually within 24 or 48 hours at the most.
Thank you, sir. That is awesome. I will post all those links into the podcast notes. That way, anyone from around the world will have access to it. And so I hope this is not our last conversation, Ryan. I hope down the road, let's do this again, because you are such a bright light. I want to thank you, Taro Alexander, Mariska Hargitay, Paul Rudd, and everybody who was involved in this powerful, fantastic, amazing film, because it has impacted my life in such a positive way. I felt the love. I felt the hope that I found after I turned 40. In this film, I felt all of that, and it is such a powerful experience. So I just want to thank you. I hope you have an awesome evening. I want you to take care, be well, and stay safe.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
If you like this podcast, head on over to Apple Podcasts. Subscribe, rate, and review. Thank you for listening, and we will talk again.